Not sure what Marvel's doing over there, but they choose to continue to make choices that I don't necessarily agree with, but we'll talk about it. The Titans have now been officially the team of DC. No more Justice League. We'll talk about it. And you ever heard of the Indigo children? Because that's my new favorite thing. There's only 2 issues out, but I feel like I'm gonna love it. Greetings, barflies, uninitiated, and the council. You already know who it is. It's Big Dan. Rodan, I'm coming to you live from the 215, your comic book connoisseur, your sommelier of sci-fi and superheroes. Here to welcome you to the Cellar. If you've been keeping up with anything Amazing Spider-Man related, you know that currently Zeb Wells is the writer, and John Romita is usually the penciler on that series. And I just don't like it. I personally, it's just not for me. I'm pretty sure Zeb Wells hates Spider-Man. There's no way around it, because no one would be writing the way that they're doing this just to crap on Spider-Man in the way that I feel that the writing is doing. Every choice, every plot decision seems to be putting Spider-Man in a continuous bind of either making him unlikable to the reader or unlikable to the Marvel universe. And I just don't get why. Right? Everyone's always rooting for Spider-Man. Not to say that he's the only person that's ever done this in writing Spider-Man, but this feels overly intentional and overly aggressive in the way that they're just putting Spider-Man like out. Just like everything is bad. Everyone is either angry at Spider-Man or has moved on from Spider-Man. Listen, if you're not caught up yet, stop right here. The rest contains spoilers. But if you're currently reading Spider-Man, then you know that him and MJ are no longer together. Something happened. If at the beginning of issue 1, something happened that made Spider-Man not be liked by most of his friends and family. They just wanted him to come back and just explain what happened. But he wouldn't do that. Him and Mary Jane was supposed to move in together. Next thing we know, MJ has a kid. Not a kid. MJ has 2 kids and a husband. Don't know how that happened. The timeline is a little buggy. MJ has powers or some probability. No, I would say it's powers, because MJ is no longer just a regular human being. She has something going on with her. Zeb Wells is really out to get Spider-Man. Nick Spencer, it kind of felt like a very safe place to be when writing Spider-Man, because it was, ups and downs, highs and lows. Spider-Man's going to be, he's always going to get back up. And so I get that that's normally the take for Spider-Man, but this just seems to be putting Spider-Man in a bind to where nobody likes him. The penciling doesn't help. We're going to say JR from now. JR for all intents and purposes chose to do this. And look at it. I'm gonna blow it up for you. Look at this. He's not one of my favorite pencilers, and so I get that. There might be a preference thing, but come on. What is that? I mean, mind you, it does look how I feel on the inside, but this it's just nonsense. It's laughable to the point of like, people are paying for these issues. I'm spending my own money to read these comic books, and so do I just skip the run? I don't know. I'm the comic book guy. I have to stay current on it, and I don't want to read other people's reviews. I want to make up my own opinions. But hopefully, after this run, which I believe is ending issue 26. And then following up with that is going to be the death of Miss Marvel. This just seems to be completely out of place. I personally think it's going to go down in infamy as one of Spider-Man's least popular runs, but who can say? Meanwhile, over at DC, a lot of big changes are happening. Tom Taylor is at the helm for Titans. The Dawn of DC is currently in place to revamp the entire brand. Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Doom Patrol, the Vigil. There's just so many things currently happening in the DC's camp But our focus right now is going to be on Titans issue number 1. Tom Taylor might just arguably be the GOAT, and we have to accept that. Be okay with it. Nicola Scott is doing the penciling, and I personally, in my opinion, think it's phenomenal. I'm not biased to DC. If anyone knows me, I'm the Marvel guy. But DC is doing this thing right now. I do feel like the dynamics of the Titans, because now they're older, Dick Grayson has matured leagues beyond where he first came in years and years and years ago. That awful suit. Do you remember that? Like, oh man, do you remember that? Like, that suit was bad. It was a bad suit. Like, whoever told him to dress up like the brightest looking cowboy. Dick Grayson is at the helm leading the team, and the maturity, at least in issue number 1, shines through. And I think for the direction that they're going in with Titans and with the character of Dick Grayson, it just makes it work. I think there's a lot of potential here. It seems like DC in general is choosing to focus more on families under the banners of these characters. And while that's been an ongoing trend as far as like creating legacy characters in Marvel, DC seems to be doing a better job of it, of at least maintaining the continuity and consistency of keeping these characters involved with the title characters that are actually driving the story forward. There's Batman Incorporated. Superman has, I don't even know how many super people there are anymore, but it's a lot. Green Arrow has his people, and it just seems like over and over and over again, the concept of family is just the driving force of DC at the moment. But I'm holding my breath because DC has let me down in the past. We all know what happened with New 52 and with Rebirth. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but I'm going to sit with bated breath and hope that they blow us all away. I don't know. Hope that they actually execute this. All in all, I'm hoping that all these choices really impact and drive up the overall sales, not just in comic books, but primarily for DC, that these choices of characters and elevating those and kind of, not, I won't say muting, but choosing to highlight the newer generation of comic book characters will only further improve the image of DC. Speaking of image, let's jump right into it. Indigo Children, written by Rockwell White and Kurt Pyers. I love it. It's only 2 issues out, and I wish there were more, and I can't wait. I think currently it's, if last I checked, they're slated for 5 issues currently that are supposed to be coming out monthly. The 3rd issue will be out by May 24th. By the time you've seen this video, it will be May 24th. So go out and get it. It's going to be what I personally believe to be a smarter take on what X-Men could have been. And that's just where I'm going to leave it. Don't quote me. Don't blame me if you disagree. But I'm here for the smoke. Now it's time for Down the Barrel. Part of the video where we talk about comic books or graphic novels that have been released either 10 years or more, and their run is currently over. We talk about whether or not they've aged nicely. That's right, as your comic book connoisseur, I think it's important that we talk about our favorite things, but also very honestly admit whether or not they still hold up. So my pick for this week is obviously Civil War, right? Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a Marvel guy, and if I've ever recommended a series to you or an event to you as far as Marvel's concerned, it's always going to be Mark Millar and Steve McNair's Civil War. The art, the story, the overarching impact that story had to the landscape of Marvel has just been long-standing. Do I think it holds up? I 100% think it holds up. I think you can read Civil War to understand the dichotomy of Captain America and Iron Man to the point of their identity still holding up, not just in comic books, but even in the MCU. Not necessarily the MCU Civil War. If you've heard my take on that, I don't like it, but it's only because I hold so tightly to, the comic book Civil War that I can't let it go. And I get that. As a comic book guy and also as an MCU fan, I should be able to learn to separate the two, but I can't. Not when it comes to Civil War, just because I hold that one up so high. The event happened in a very dark time in my life, to the point where optimism was not something that I needed per se, but I enjoyed reading that so much. And it reignited my love for comic books. Like I said, at a time where I didn't think necessarily that was possible. So would I recommend that? 10 out of 10, 100%. We at the Blerd Bar, we do 5, right? So if it's 5 out of 5, it's 5 out of 5 for me. This is always my number one pick for anybody. It's available everywhere, digitally, paper. Go read it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. But we've reached the end of the video. Thanks for stopping by the Cellar, your comic book safe space, maybe. And, hopefully they'll let me out and join the regular population of people. I understand that I'm not supposed to make these videos. However, do you always want to talk about anime? I don't always want to talk about anime. I always want to talk about comic books. And no one lets me. No one here lets me. That's why there's no one here. Because this is the only time I get to talk about comic books. I can't talk about it with my kids. I can't talk about it with my wife. I can't talk about it with my friends. Why? I just want to talk about comic books. Y'all have a blessed night.